In today's video, we have lots to talk about, including some trade talk around teams like Edmonton, Vancouver, and St. Louis. Plus, we have the details on the cover athletes for NHL 25. We have some further analysis on the McGroarty trade to the Pittsburgh Penguins today, including comments from Kevin Cheveldayoff as well. Plus, we have some signings regarding some PTOs. An interesting story as well around A-list actor Keanu Reeves. We'll discuss how he's connected to the hockey world. Plus, Jeremy Swayman and the Bruins still extremely far apart as we get into the later part of August. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to talk about today. It's been another busy day of NHL activity. We once again had a nice trade today. So again, thankful to the NHL and the teams for giving us lots of transactions and activity here to talk about. So in case you missed it earlier, there is a dedicated video on the channel. But I wanted to just a little bit further analyze this because we now have learned a little bit more about the details and some comments from the parties involved here. But McGroarty, the disgruntled prospect from the Jets, former first rounder in 2022, had requested a trade. We knew that he wouldn't sign with Winnipeg and was wanting to be moved to a new team. We had heard from Kevin Cheveldayoff earlier around the time of the draft that they were having some discussions and whatnot, but really didn't know what was going to happen. We knew he wasn't going to go to development camp, wasn't going to go to rookie camp, and he wouldn't be going to training camp if it made it that far that he was still in the Jets organization and was trending towards going back to school at the University of Michigan. Well, they found a move that they were comfortable making, and they traded him today to the Pittsburgh Penguins in exchange for another former first-round pick. They were both 14th overall, 1 year apart, Brayden Yager, who was in 2022. He led his team to the Memorial Cup this past year in Canada, where the Western Hockey League, the Montreal Warriors, and Yager was a big part of that. Put up a 95-point regular season campaign. He really had a huge year of growth and development. And Kyle Dubas had comments today regarding when he made the move. He said, it was a tough decision for them because they have the utmost regard for Brayden Yager and what he might become. But they felt that McGroarty was a great fit and had an opportunity, I think, to make them better, sooner, so to speak. I mean, McGroarty is a year older, is a little bit further along with his development. He likely will play NHL games first. It wouldn't be a big shock. But in all honesty, long term, this has the potential, and we won't know for a while if it does, but it has potential to be a win-win for both teams. It really does. McGroarty, of course, a little bit bigger than Yager, plays the wing, plays a physical game. He can score, has some leadership qualities. He was captain of Team USA to World Juniors. This kid looks to be pretty good. Now, is he 100% ready to play right now? Time will tell as we get into training camp and whatnot, but I'm assuming the Penguins would have had to have made some concessions to likely promise him at least a look at the NHL to start the year. All that said, he signed his 3-year entry-level contract today as well, so McGroarty's officially signed and is a Penguin, so he's now officially left school. He will not be able to play anymore for the University of Michigan, so his time there is up. He will be a pro player this year for sure, and we'll see. Kevin Cheveldayoff, the GM of the Jets, I must say he's done good things over the course of the time. I mean, I know there's some Jets fans that might be a little frustrated with the Jets' lack of playoff success, or the fact that they haven't come closer to winning a Stanley Cup since they inevitably returned after relocating from Atlanta. Cheveldayoff's been the main GM the entire time. But he's done well. He's had a lot of unique situations. He has one of the toughest jobs in the league, in my opinion. He's had a lot of situations where players wanted out, and he is kind of been patient and found the right deals. And look at the Dufour deal. That's worked out quite well, and this has potential as well. He wasn't going to give McGroarty away. He wanted something comparable coming back, and he gets a first-round pick taken in the same part of the draft, 1 year younger, with a lot of upside. So in all honesty, I think they've done really well. They really did. But when he was asked, Cheveldayoff, about the request from McGroarty's camp to be moved, he said that he really didn't know what to make of it. He just said all he was told was that things just didn't feel right. He said obviously after being drafted, eventually he's talked to the agent, who's Pat Brisson, who's a top agent in hockey, asked him a ton of questions, like, was it this, was it that? Went through a lot of stuff, and they really wouldn't give him anything to go on. He said he did end up speaking to McGroarty himself as well, and he said basically he was told that once he hit the development camp, put the jersey on, things became real, and it just didn't feel right. That is just bizarre. I mean, to me, any aspiring hockey player who wants to be a pro and make it in the NHL, in all honesty, that sounds entitled to me. I'm sorry. I hope McGroarty has a great career, and I hope he shakes his reputation. But you should be thrilled to be part of any NHL organization. I can tell you from a lot of players that I've known over the years that never made it, they would kill for an opportunity to be part of any team, let alone, regardless of where they're at or anything. It's just unfortunate the way things have played out. I know a lot of people compare him to Cutter Gauthier. They are great friends. They do have different agents, but same kind of outcome here, unfortunately. So it's just kind of bizarre. Really bizarre. But Kyle Dubas and Penguins made it known they were very, very high on Braden Yager, and they didn't take this move lightly. So great things to say about him. Cheval day off. Again, couldn't really elaborate a whole lot on the McGroarty request. It's just really weird scenario. But he's signed with the Penguins today, and he's off and running with his pro career. So moving on to some other NHL news around the league, we had a few other signings to talk about, mostly just when it comes to PTOs really. But the Vancouver Canucks today signed Sammy Blais, the former St. Louis Blue, brief time with the Rangers too, but mostly a Blue through his NHL career. 28 years old now. He gets an American Hockey League deal, so he's not guaranteed to be even called up to the NHL, but he has been given a PTO to go to the main Canucks training camp and fight for a contract. The thing about Blais that I can see Rick Tocchet maybe liking is that he's got good size, he's a good skater, not afraid to forecheck, not afraid to play physical, so he could be a fourth line crash and banger kind of guy. I can see Tocchet liking his style. Doesn't have a whole lot of offensive upside. I know when he returned to the Blues after a brief stint with the Rangers, he did have a little bit of an explosion there offensively, but it didn't last too long. He's not going to give you a lot that way, but he is a good forechecker, good skater, and good physical player in that sense. So we will see. No guarantees he makes it. There's not a lot there for roster spots available. But if they run into injuries or whatnot, I can see it maybe leading to a two-way deal possibly. But he'll have to earn that, and time will tell. The Penguins also today, besides trading for Rutger McGroarty, have also signed Nikolai Nijov, who was the defenseman, former San Jose Shark. He's going to Penguins camp also on a professional tryout. Now, as I mentioned as well, we also learned today, which I think there was some information leaked. I didn't see it. I'm not much in the gaming world, though, but the NHL 25 cover athletes have been revealed, and it is the Hughes brothers. Not just one, but all three. So Quinn, Jack, and Luke will all appear on the cover of the game themselves together. I believe there's different editions of the game. I think Quinn and Jack also have their own individual covers, and then they have I think the deluxe edition, I believe it is, that they have all of them. So certainly well-deserved honor there. I mean, they've all had really good starts to their NHL careers. I mean, Quinn's a captain now in Vancouver. Jack and Luke are doing good things in New Jersey. Certainly some of the top young players who can definitely market and sell the game. So I think they made a good choice in that sense for this year's cover athletes. Here's an interesting story as well. Keanu Reeves, a lot of people don't realize, especially American people, because they're used to seeing him as such a top actor out of Hollywood, but he is a Canadian-born person. He is, I believe one of his parents were American, if I'm not mistaken, but he did grow up mostly in Ontario. And Keanu Reeves, being a Canadian kid, loved the game of hockey. Well, today he signed a one-day contract with the OHL's Windsor Spitfires. So for today only, he's a Spitfire, and they did this for a couple of things. One, it's mostly going to be done as a fundraiser, but he was a former hockey player. And I'll show you a couple of pictures here that they posted. Obviously, one of Keanu back in the day. He was a goalie prospect. He was hopeful to play in the OHL, but unfortunately, injuries did not allow that to take place, so he never made it into the OHL like he was supposed to. Obviously, I think he's made out just fine. Keanu Reeves has gone on to become an A-list actor, of course, mostly known for the Matrix series, but lots of other great roles that he's played over the years. All kinds of interesting movies, more of a sci-fi kind of actor for sure, but he's certainly earned his, tons of money and recognition as, like I said, as a, big-time Hollywood actor. So obviously, with his name recognition, you certainly use that to help charities out and such. Like you see a lot. Keanu Reeves, in case you don't know, is a very humble, charitable person by nature as well, which is great to see. I've seen lots of great stories around Keanu Reeves over the years, but this one-day contract with the Windsor Spitfires, he is basically signing a ton of merchandise, whether it be jerseys, pucks, all kinds of various Spitfire items, and they're going to be auctioned off. 100% of the proceeds of all the sales will go to the Canadian Mental Health Association and the Windsor edition of that. So certainly a great fundraiser, and certainly nice to see a Canadian top Hollywood actor giving back to the Ontario hockey community. So that's a great story. I thought that was quite interesting. I always knew he was Canadian. I knew he played hockey when he was younger. I didn't realize that he was viewed as somebody who likely would play junior at least, and didn't know that it was injuries that prevented it for him. So it was learned a little bit about somebody who's a famous Canadian today. Obviously a great charitable event and raising money for a cause that greatly needs it in this country. So great on Keanu Reeves for all the efforts in that sense. And now, of course, he'll go down as a member of the Windsor Spitfires alumni in the Ontario Hockey League. Some other news around the NHL. Boston Bruins and Jeremy Swayman are reportedly still miles apart, nowhere near reaching a contract. Negotiations do continue. At this point, I can't say for sure, based on the reports, how frequently the discussions are taking place. How often are they talking? I don't know. But according to some reporters, that it's not just term or money, it is both scenarios that they are miles apart on, far apart on both sides of the negotiation. Now, as I mentioned as well before, I'll say it again, RFA negotiations are, this time of year, sometimes they do drag on because there's no pressure point. So as much as, the longer this goes, I think it's fair to say that the concerns and the, worry levels should rise, and they will. But at the same time, like I said, there's no pressure points yet. Give it a couple more weeks. But still, it's not a promising look right now. I know Swayman, had a tough time getting a deal done last year. Really was hoping to get something done. Nice long-term commitment this year. He certainly earned that right. And, not saying this is going to lead to a trade or anything. It's way too premature for that. But, relationships do play a big role. And if they don't get a long-term deal done, if they can only settle on a shorter term, that's really not good, because that'll set them up to maybe lose them a lot sooner than they ever expected. They've already traded Allmark, and if they can't lock him up long term, that could cause a lot of sweating, when it comes to their future goaltending situation. Because if they lost Swayman, that would be an entirely different looking team. He's become such a big part of that they better hope that they can come to terms and get it agreed upon for a 7-8 year deal, preferably. But at the same time, like I said, when we're a few days out from training camp, the pressure should ratchet up a little bit. And if we still don't have anything then yeah, we'll definitely increase the panic button a little bit. But right now, still way far apart, and tons of work to be done to close the gap. As we talked about yesterday, we talked about the Canucks and the trade rumors, or even free agent rumors, both sides really, for goaltending. They have some concerns now about Thatcher Demko, that he may not be ready for camp. Might miss a little bit to start the year, although some of the reporters that have been talking about this, like Rick Dollywall, seemed more optimistic that he'd be ready to start the season. But at the same time, he's also saying that they're scouring the market for goaltending help. So I'm like, if they were that confident Demko would be ready, would they really be going after another goalie right now? I don't know about that. So, one target in free agency that I've seen come across today that some Canucks reporters were talking about was Kevin Lankinen. He's had a couple of decent years now with Nashville, played in Chicago before that. Of course, they found an opportunity that they felt to upgrade with Scott Wedgwood. And, of course, we know the whole Askarov situation and the fact he wants out of there because they still blocked him from being an NHL goalie. So Lankinen's a name that's out there that they may be able to sign. So, of course, that they don't give up assets for that. So there is a possibility there. I've seen some people suggesting that the Canucks should trade for Yaroslav Askarov, or try to at least, because, long term, I honestly I've seen some speculation, haven't not been a lot lately, but earlier before the end of the season, saying that the Canucks really should consider a Demko trade. And it's not that he's not a good goaltender, but he's been hurt a lot, and because he's had so many serious injuries, you have to worry about his longevity and how long he's going to play and how long he can play at a high level. It has nothing to do with his talent level or his skill or anything, but you need a reliable goaltender. Look what happened in the playoffs. They have a healthy Thatcher Demko. You have to wonder if there's a different outcome in that series with Edmonton. So, at the end of the day, I don't think that they're going to be looking to trade Demko right now. That's not what I'm saying. But bringing in a guy like Askarov might be the option to eventually push Demko, to be moved, and Askarov eventually be the starter if he develops into the guy you think, and you could run with a tandem of Askarov and Shilovs. But hard to say, and that would be very complicated. But they're definitely on the goalie market, no doubt. Lankinen appears to be the target right now. I have only, when it comes to Askarov, I've only seen fans talking about how they feel like it should be something the Canucks look at. I haven't seen any actual connections from reporters suggesting that they're really looking into it. A couple other things to look at. St. Louis, of course, after being successful with the Broberg and Holloway offer sheets, they now have way too many defensemen. You could argue they had too many before, and now they have another one in Broberg, and with what they're paying him and the effort they went to get him, he's definitely going to be getting, I think, fair to say, every effort to be a top 4, definitely a top 6. I think, in all honesty, you can make they definitely have to move somebody. We know Torrey Krug might not play this year, but even with Krug, because they have 10 defensemen, and if you take Krug out, you're still down to 9. You're still 1 or 2 guys that could go. Now, some of these guys could be put on waivers or play in the minors. So there's 2 ways they can go about this. And looking at an article from reporter Matthew DeFranks, he says they can go about this by trading a veteran, because they have lots of veterans there that are, that could give them more of a cap flexibility and cap relief. So whether it be Colton Parayko or Nick Leddy, and now they all have trade protection of some kind, so it's not going to be easy to do. Parayko's a good defenseman, right shot, really big guy, comes with a big contract, and will have some say in where he goes. So that's certainly not an easy deal to do, although I think if it was officially known that he was on the market, there would definitely be a lot of interest. Leddy's still a pretty good skating defenseman, but I'm not sure, the interest there, but there could be for sure. Or they could go about moving one of their younger guys, whether it be Scott Marinovich, Tyler Tucker, Matthew Kessel, maybe they move one of those guys, because they will be in a situation when they get to camp that they're going to end up having to put a couple of these guys probably on waivers, and they could lose them that way. So I don't imagine that's something they're going to want to see happen. So I fully suspect the St. Louis Blues to very much be active, and probably will move another defenseman sometime between now and the time the season starts, preferably before camp, but we'll see where things go. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see if it'd be a bigger name to get up more cap space, but I think they want to be more competitive and they want to win. With what they've done, I mean, yes, they wanted to kind of retool here on the fly, but I think it's important to them to try to win while they're retooling. So I'm not really sure they're going to want to move a big veteran. I think it's more likely one of the lower level guys that gets moved. In Edmonton, of course, some speculation that on a couple of things. One, they may bring in a defenseman that shoots right, preferably on a PTO. Name that's been linked as former Oiler Tyson Barrie. He could come back. He still remains unsigned up there on the UFA market. We know he was a beloved teammate. They really liked this guy. A lot of Oilers players were really sad to see him go when he was moved. Of course, that was a difficult trade, but something that they kind of needed to do to bring Ekholm in. Things didn't work out for him in Nashville, and he's looking for a new beginning, to kind of finish out his NHL days. Whether or not that's in Edmonton or somewhere else, it's hard to say, but there is speculation that Barrie may go to camp with Edmonton on a PTO, and maybe he turns out to be the guy that they're looking for. But I mean, he's more of a power play specialist, more of a puck mover, not really the shutdown or the penalty killing type. So I know I've seen another article suggesting that the Oilers are, if they don't do it before the season, is going to have to be their main focus during the year after they're accruing enough cap space, is to go after somebody who can play at least top 6, if not top 4 right shot minutes. And a couple of names came up, but one of them was Montreal Canadiens defenseman David Savard. And to be completely honest, I think it's fair to say that Savard's going to get moved sometime during the season. before the deadline, David Savard will be one of the names I fully expect to get traded. He's a right shot. He works a lot in the PK, blocks shots. Like, he's stronger defensively. He's got a lot of experience. He has a Stanley Cup to his name. I think he would almost be, maybe not perfect, but one of the top candidates that Edmonton will be looking at. So it makes a lot of sense that Montreal and Edmonton hook up on a deal here. I don't think from Montreal's perspective, even if they improve enough to be fighting for playoffs down the stretch, which I'm not yet convinced that's going to happen, but they've made a lot of good moves. And, they'll definitely play more meaningful games and be better this year. I can say that with pretty well certainty here. But, regardless of where things are at, even if they're in the mix, I don't think it makes sense for them to not move a veteran if they can get a good, decent return. I think they need to do that. So, Savard's that prime candidate. Now, he will have a little bit of protection in his contract as well. I don't know if he'd be opposed to going to Edmonton or if he can block that. But David Savard to the Oilers, to me, is the top 4 right shot defenseman. Like, they can be like your new Cody Ceci, who played on the PK and actually did well. I think he's a prime candidate. It would almost be perfect or close to it. So with all the other names that was on that list in the article, they looked at Jeff Petrie, another former Oiler. I'm like, no, especially if you get Tyson Barrie, if he does end up signing on a cheap league minimum deal or something, then, in all honesty, they need a different type of defenseman to add to the mix for playoffs. And they need more of a defensive specialist, a shot blocker, a penalty killer. And Savard would be a lot better suited for that than Jeff Petrie ever would be. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.